In a world where we as consumers are exposed to literally hundreds of marketing and advertising messages daily, it's incredibly difficult for a brand to cut through all of that noise and get noticed. I mean, if you're a business owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Getting anyone to notice your marketing or advertising and interact with it, click on it, head to your website, all of that kind of stuff. It's very, very difficult. But every now and again, I do notice a new brand doing a particularly good job of getting noticed. And today's guest is one of those. So, what happened was about a month ago, I was reading an article on the Mamamia blog. I think it's just mamamia.com for those of you maybe have been living under a rock and don't know it. So it was a blog article about the best mascara brands. And I came across one that I'd never heard of before. Now, I love wearing mascara, which is, probably why I clicked on that article. This brand is called Okkiyo. Okkiyo, I probably said that incorrectly just then, Okkiyo. And it's a new Australian brand of mascara that's designed for people with sensitive eyes. Now, if you've ever watched my podcast videos, you've probably caught me dabbing at my eyes with a tissue from time to time, maybe my nose as well. And the truth is, I'm not sick. I just struggle with allergies, and a lot of skincare and makeup brands exacerbate that. So obviously that very specific niche that Okkiyo is going for with their brand spoke to me. But on top of that, their branding is super vibrant and it really stands out. And they have a really unique brand story as well. And so just that whole package, really, they've done a fantastic job of getting noticed and cutting through that noisy online marketplace that we're all trying to do business in and actually getting noticed. And so today on the show, I'm really excited to share an interview with Okkiyo's founder, Dr. Jacqueline Beltz. And I will let you know she's not even 12 months in since launching the brand late last year, but she's already surpassed 5,000 customers and shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. So a really amazing story to date in her business journey, and I'm sure you will really enjoy it. Particularly, if you're one of those people who just loves hearing other entrepreneurs share their stories, you'll definitely enjoy it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Jackie to the show. So welcome to the show. I think this is the first time I've had a doctor on the show. Dr. Jacqueline Beltz, is that right? Am I saying that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so very cool to have you here. And do you want to kind of give yourself a quick intro and then we're going to talk all about your amazing business?
Yes, sure. Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited because I listen to your podcast, and it's actually quite weird to be a guest on a podcast that I listen to all the time. So yes,
Cool.
I'm Jacqueline Beltz. I'm an ophthalmologist, which means that I'm a medical doctor or eye specialist. I work full time in that field across both public and private practice in Melbourne, which means that I mainly see patients and do surgeries like cataract surgery, LASIK, corneal transplant. And I also work in surgical education. And we're here because I have an e-commerce business, which is called Okkiyo. I make beauty products for people with sensitive eyes, which I just launched last November with our hero product, which is mascara.
Yeah. And I came across your brand when I was reading, on the Mamamia blog. And yeah, you got a shout out on there from one of the beauty editors. And I have lots of sensitivities with my skin. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give that one a go. So
Oh,
that's
thanks
how I
so
came
much.
across
That's
you.
very supportive.
Yeah, so cool. And so obviously you have quite the big career outside of Okkiyo. And tell us the story. What on earth prompted you to invent this brand and this product?
Well, as an eye surgeon, I do see a lot of patients with sensitive eyes, and they might be sensitive due to diagnosed conditions like dry eye or glaucoma, or maybe they're prone to allergies. They might have had surgery or wear contact lenses, just for some examples. And I started to notice that people with sensitive eyes struggle to wear eye makeup, but they didn't really ask me about it that often. There's a perception that makeup isn't important in healthcare in general, and maybe that we should just talk about health or take care of health or vision-threatening disease. Traditional teaching in ophthalmology kind of exacerbated that perception, and most ophthalmologists are men. There's only 23% of ophthalmologists in Australia are women.
That's
And so
crazy.
most of my teachers were men. And well, they just taught us to tell patients not to wear makeup. And the
Well, that's
problem
not
was,
helpful.
no,
Because they're going
outrageous, right?
to.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to tell people that because I love makeup and I
Yeah,
love the way it makes me feel. I love
yeah,
it as a form of self-expression. And mostly I love that it can give us that bit of a boost, whether it's energy or confidence, whatever we kind of need to get into our day.
yeah.
And I didn't want to take that away from people, especially my patients right when they're experiencing health problems or concerns.
Mm,
But the problem that I had was it's difficult to know which products to recommend, and most
mm.
products are not specifically tested for people with sensitivities.
No.
I saw that there are a lot of products out there for people with sensitive skin, and I've
Yes.
always been obsessed with entrepreneurship podcasts. Like that's why I listen to yours. So I'd listen to lots of stories,
Yeah.
and I think those brand stories just encouraged me to decide to make a line of my own.
Yeah.
And I started with mascara because it's often the first product that people with sensitive eyes struggle with and
Mm,
therefore stop using. And
yeah.
also, it's the one product that we kind of just want to put on to feel finished or ready to make ourselves feel good.
Yeah, definitely. Well, those of us with very blonde eyelashes that look like we have none definitely want to put some on. So,
Yeah, that's my
yeah.
situation too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so tell us like when did you start work on this? Because I've been through this a few times before. I know it takes a long time to go through the formulation and testing and prototyping process and then branding and packaging on top of that. So if you launched in November last year, when did this whole journey start?
About 3 or 3.5 years before then.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it took a long time. I mean, listening to all those brand stories that I listened to, I think maybe that's a normal amount of time, but it was certainly longer than I was expecting in the
Mm.
beginning. I tried to just do it all step by step. Um, Probably if I really understood what was going to be involved, I might not have done it. But
So many people say that. Yeah.
yeah, but looking back, I can't even really believe that I did do it. And I'm very
Yeah.
proud of it. And
Yeah.
mascara is quite complex. And maybe
Mm.
I shouldn't have started with that product, but it is a great product and one that really evokes passion and in people. So of course
Mm.
I'm happy that I started with mascara now, but other products would have been easier.
Yeah. Maybe an eyeliner pencil or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But hopefully that means subsequent products might be just a tiny bit easier.
Do you know, I can definitely do future products faster because I've learnt so much from making the mascara that
Yeah.
I can definitely streamline things. And there's certain steps that still take a long time. The
Mm.
scientific testing,
Yes.
for example, you just can't rush that. But
No.
I wouldn't make so many mistakes for sure.
Yeah. And hopefully, if you've got some people that you work with formulating and testing and production and things like that, you've got that trusted relationship there already. So, because I know that can be really difficult to find the right
Yes,
people.
yeah, that's so true. In fact, developing a network has been one of the most difficult parts of building this business because it's obviously a different field to what I'm used to. So I've got a strong network within ophthalmology. If I have a problem in ophthalmology, I can usually sort it out by contacting the right person, even if that's an international person.
Mm,
But within the beauty industry, I literally came from nothing. I didn't know a single person.
mm.
And the network that I've developed from the mascara really is helping with the subsequent products.
Yeah, so good. I'm excited now for what might be coming next. But before we get there, tell us a bit about what you've learned through that journey of, developing the product and then developing the brand and bringing it to launch. And I guess it's not quite a year yet, but even that amount of time as an e-commerce business, I think the learning curve would have been pretty huge. Can you
Yeah, it
think
has been
maybe two or
huge.
three? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been great fun to learn all of these new skills. I started concurrently with branding and science.
Mhm.
My strategy was probably pretty wacky, to be honest, but I think that's kind of one advantage of switching fields because innovation actually requires fresh ideas. And
Mm.
because I didn't know anything, I was completely not influenced by how things should be or would usually be done
Yeah.
because I just didn't know.
Mm.
So I started with branding, and I wanted my products to really stand out.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be high performing, similar to the big luxury brands that are super enjoyable and fun to use, because that's what I already used. And I didn't want to compromise, or for my patients to need to compromise. Especially, I didn't want them to feel like they had to use the boring doctor brand just because they had sensitive eyes.
Mm.
So I wanted them to feel empowered and enjoy using my products. And I wanted that to be conveyed in the branding. And I think that's why I started with the brand at the same time as the actual formula and the actual product, because I just knew that that was going to be a really important part of it.
Yeah.
But I did do the product at the same time. Um, so for the product, I started working with an independent chemist, eventually, once I realized that they exist. And she was excellent. she she taught me a few of the steps that would be required to make a mascara and to have a product-based business. And she gave me strategies to figure out things like the cost of starting this business, and also taught me how to write a product brief, which turned out to be really important.
Mm.
Um, and I'd already been searching for a manufacturer, but that was really difficult. And but together with the chemist, I could develop a product brief that was a lot more accurate, sounded like I knew what I was talking about. And so together with her, I managed to secure a manufacturer in Italy, actually, where the mascara is made.
Cool.
Um, and actually, thinking about it, looking back, I actually thought that once the formula was done and the branding was done, that was going to be the biggest part of my learning curve, and that would be the hard bit, so to
Yeah.
speak. But
Yeah.
I was quite wrong. Like, you'd know that, Kath, you had a few businesses. But then I had to learn about packaging, regulations, website design, SEO, marketing, all those things.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, the hardest part for me, I think, was not being connected at all.
Mm.
So I just didn't have anybody to go to ask. I took a course actually back near the beginning, which was really great. It's called Skincare Business Foundations. And that was by Jennifer Rudd, who's a cosmetics regulation expert. And I can highly recommend her courses because she really helped me to understand what sort of things I needed to do to make my products compliant.
Yeah.
I knew, especially with mascara, the minimum order is a lot. So I didn't want to make a mistake on my packaging and have to redo it. I couldn't afford to have done that.
No. And I mean, I can imagine makeup is like skincare where there's a limit to some things that you can say about the product and the benefits,
Yeah,
whether it's on
totally.
packaging or the website or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And I think I had a pretty good understanding of that. I mean, I learned about it in that course, but it wasn't difficult for me to grasp, because the difference is, mascara is a cosmetic,
Mm.
and then there's other products that might be therapeutic products, like medicines or sunscreen, for example. And I think because of my medical background, I have a good understanding of the difference.
Yeah.
So yes, that's very important. So for mascara, which is a cosmetic product, I can say that it's suitable for sensitive eyes, which it is. And I've tested my mascara and developed it especially to be suitable for sensitive eyes. But
Mm.
I can't say that it's going to cure your sensitive eyes, because, well, of course it won't, because it's just
No,
mascara.
exactly.
But that would be a therapeutic claim. So yes, I did have to learn the difference.
Mm.
I had to learn so many things. I can't even think of them all, Kath, because it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
literally everything about running a business. I didn't have
Yeah.
experience in anything.
Yeah.
I learnt heaps from podcasts, and I'd listen to all the brand stories I could find and try to avoid making the mistakes that other founders reflected on.
Yeah.
Lately, a big challenge has been marketing. I took a course in that as well.
Yep.
And now I work with that person one-on-one, and that's been really brilliant. She's taught me so much. And I think I'm getting better at social media. That's been a big learning curve. That was
Mm.
so embarrassing in the beginning, to put my face on there.
It is challenging. Yeah, just
Yeah,
it's like the cookie monster, the content requirements for social media. It's just never enough, is it? You always
yeah,
need.
it's really true, but it is also kind of weird how it becomes normal pretty quickly.
Mm.
It is less than a year that since I launched, it's about 8 months, and I've gone from feeling mortified at having to be on social media to actually quite enjoying it now. So,
I think you're
um,
doing a good job. I mean, I
oh,
see it,
thanks.
so yeah.
Thank you. That's kind of you.
Well, you're putting yourself out there and you're doing all of these things, and I guess the key. I mean, we all have to acknowledge that we don't know what we don't know, but as soon as you find out that you're missing, there's a knowledge gap there, you have to get on it. And, if you can pay for some help with a course or a coach or someone like that, obviously that's going to get you there a little bit quicker. But you've obviously managed to get through a lot of these learning curves quite quickly and grow, which is great.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure some of the steps could have been faster, but I do tend to get there in the end.
Don't be too hard on yourself. And so I want to go out on a limb, and this is only me kind of looking after I discovered your brand, obviously, looked into it a little bit more, and since then I've reached out to you to come on the show. But when I was looking through what I could find online, it looked like you had some really amazing PR right at the start. Can you tell us a little bit how you went about getting that? Obviously, I found you through Mamamia, but
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know until today that you found me through Mamamia, and they have been particularly supportive. And you're right, I've been super fortunate to have had so many hits with PR.
mm,
I basically knew, like, early on from when I was working on the branding and the formula at the same time, I knew that PR was going to be really important. And actually, apart from those courses that I mentioned and the marketing support and training, PR's been the only external help that I've had. So I haven't done the PR myself. I knew that I would need professional PR because PR is basically, well, there's lots of skills, but it's also about relationships and connections. And I just don't have those. I don't know people in the beauty industry. So I investigated and worked with a PR team that are based in Sydney.
mhm.
And I think from the combination of them being excellent and my story being unique, and then once it launched, the consumers loving my product, we really have had a lot of success with PR. I think we've had 30 publications, which is
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really proud of it because I have heard about, PR is unpredictable. Like, even with the
Yeah.
best PR people in the world, you might not get any hits. But we deployed a few different strategies,
Mm,
and they've not all been super successful, especially in the beginning. The biggest learning for me, I think, was that PR isn't marketing. So
mm,
it was a bit disappointing in the beginning when, big influencers or would post about it, or articles would be written, but they didn't really translate to sales.
mm.
And what I learnt was that it just takes time to pick up. And all of that exposure in the beginning was really great for my brand legitimacy.
Yeah.
And because my product speaks to a particular group of people, it really is quite niche, usually women with sensitive eyes.
Yeah.
I really needed help getting the word out to them. So the two main strategies that we used for PR was um, journalists or press releases as one avenue, and gifting influencers as another avenue. And I'd always had a plan to gift a significant proportion of my first order. So we did send the mascara out to a lot of social media influencers, which was really successful.
And was that just a gifting program, or was it
Yes,
paid
yeah,
as well with the
yeah.
influence?
It was just a gifting program,
Yep.
which I would say one thing that I'd say about that is it is an expensive exercise. And yes, there's two ways: there's paid influencers and gifting. But in the beginning, I definitely just went with gifting. And of course, there's no expectation that comes with that. And the influencer can either mention it or not.
Yeah.
And many did, usually in their stories. But as new startup, I think every business is the same in that the cost of everything is very, very important.
Mm.
And I did find the gifting quite expensive, even though it wasn't a paid campaign, because there's, of course, the cost of the product, but also the shipping really adds up. So that's something that I didn't really factor in early on when I thought about gifting a significant proportion of my first order. I didn't
Yeah.
really think about the shipping
How much
costs for sending
post
them,
cost? Yeah.
everywhere. But
Yeah.
we did start with PR before I launched,
Yes.
which I thought was important to give the PR team kind of a chance to get to know me and my story. I had very precious few samples early on, and they really got them to some key journalists who really loved the mascara. And I'm
Amazing.
talking, I literally had 6 samples. So they were
Wow.
like, well, I thought they were like gold. But
Yeah.
one one of
Precious.
and my mum had one and I had one, and then,
Yeah.
a few left. And
Yeah.
so anyway, one of those early samples via the PR team got to the right journalist, and she really liked it, and it led to an article in InStyle Australia. So that's
Ah,
the first article that I had, and that was one of those real wow moments where,
okay.
early on, you often don't know that these things are coming. And I just woke up in the morning and was scrolling my phone. Someone had sent me an article, and it said we tested more than 50 new mascaras this year, and these 3 stood out.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so I thought, oh, wow, imagine if I was on that list of 50, that'd be amazing. But it was number 1.
Oh,
And
wow. Even
yeah,
better.
and I couldn't believe it that we hadn't even launched. So I had this amazing piece of PR
No one could buy
and no one
it.
could buy it. But so,
Oh, no.
but it still was really good for my confidence and
Definitely.
um, to start building a little bit of a following. So
Yeah.
I learned from that. And then I obviously wanted to get launched pretty quickly. So we ended up launching in a super mad rush because I'd heard that there was going to be another media piece coming out. And um, because I'd had no idea how long everything was going to take, and I was very keen to launch, my website had actually been ready for about a year before
Oh,
I
my goodness.
actually launched. I know. And but I hadn't put in things like payment details or really
Yeah.
figured out postage or anything like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I found out on a Wednesday, like 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, the end of the day,
Yeah.
that we thought that there was going to be an article in Body and Soul the next day.
Mhm.
And my mascara had just arrived, so I had it. So we just flipped into gear, and I got help from my website designer it's a Shopify website, to tweak that and get everything ready. And we launched in a mad rush in time for that next article,
Yeah.
and launched the next day. I still knew most people that purchased, so
Yeah.
it's not like it went totally crazy on day 1 or anything, but at
Yeah.
least we were out by the time the second PR piece
Thank
went
goodness.
to press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I can imagine that, given that you've had quite a few pieces published since then, that in conjunction with, you've been able to capitalize on some of that with your ads and building a following and stuff on socials, that it must have contributed to your ability to grow the business. A lot of startups,
Mm.
they can't invest in that kind of marketing and publicity up front. It just takes a long time to get past the crickets stage.
Yeah, that's right. And I really wanted to focus on PR from the beginning, and I feel fortunate to have been able to do that.
Mm.
I there's plenty of things that I would like to have had help with. I still do everything else myself. We're even shipping the packages from the spare room, every night after work,
Yeah.
customer
That's
service
cool.
emails, things like that. But I really I knew that PR could be really important for me because the brand story is quite unique.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to waste that opportunity because, you only get to launch once.
Mm.
And I knew that even though I'm going to have other products, mascara is, it's my hero product. I really wanted to launch successfully with the mascara.
Mm.
And so even though um, it seemed like a lot to invest, and at first I certainly wasn't getting sales that justified that expense, it has in the long run easily justified the expense.
Yeah. Good.
It's just that you don't see it immediately.
No, yeah. And then you have that moment of wobble where you sort of think, is this going to work out?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially when you get quite big pieces published and then it doesn't really do anything. I mean, I was in quite a few magazines, like just little mentions, not huge articles or anything, but Women's Weekly and Who magazine and lots of magazines that I really knew about, and digital pieces as well.
Mm,
And I just often would not see an uptick in sales, and
yeah.
that was kind of depressing. But you're right, it has been really useful for ad content
Mm,
and general brand awareness. And now that I've been launched 8 months, people have had a chance to see the brand. People like you teach us that it takes 7 touch points before somebody might purchase from a new brand. And early on, they've only had 1 or 2. So sales
exactly. Yeah.
take time.
It does. It does take a little time. Although,
Mm.
before I go on to my next question, I did see an ad. I think it might have been just this week. Uh, Loved by over 5,000 customers or something.
Yeah, I've
So
had 5,000 customers.
pretty amazing. That's really quick
Yeah.
growth. That's
Oh,
fantastic.
I'm happy you've seen that. I think I only made that ad um like yesterday or the day before. So that's a new one.
You go. I must have been doom
It's
scrolling or
good.
something.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know what? I mean, I think because I now have my skincare brand as well, I'm just, I'm doing a lot more research and following a lot more beauty brands generally. And I think I just get pixeled by a lot of them
Yeah,
and
I
served
do
a lot of
too. I love it.
ads. Yeah. So I've got some hay fever at the moment, just forgive me. Um, Tell me a little bit about your packaging as well. And I love the branding and I love the packaging, but it's got the beautiful braille on the side. And I wanted to ask you, I mean, maybe it's because of your professional background as well, but having the accessibility really baked into the DNA of your brand. Was that really part of the plan right from the start?
Yes, it was. Thanks for noticing that. Inclusivity and also contribution are 2 of my core values at Okkiyo. And right from the beginning, I wanted to really try to make a difference as much as you can with a product-based business. Contribution was kind of easier of the 2, although even that wasn't straightforward. But $1 from every online sale from Okkiyo goes via a platform that's called I=Change to Fred Hollows Foundation to support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander eye health. So I know from my profession that First Nations Australians are still 3 times more likely to go blind or have low vision than other Australians. And at Fred Hollows Foundation, they're committed to closing that gap. So I love that we get to support them through every sale.
Mm.
And last month, when we had our first ever sale and many more orders than we've had in any other month, we managed to donate more than $2,000 to them. So those contributions really add up, and I hope they'll make a difference in the long run.
Mm.
And then as far as inclusivity goes, given, as you said, my line of work, it was particularly important to me that my brand is accessible as possible for people with low vision.
Mm.
And that actually has been not easy at all. I wanted my mascara tube to be square. So, and the reason for that is I don't want it to roll away out of sight of somebody with low vision or somebody that doesn't have their glasses on.
Mm.
And I thought square tubes would be pretty simple, but actually it was super difficult,
Oh,
especially
wow.
because I wanted them to be made of recycled materials.
Wow.
And there's other features too, like our font choices and color contrast. The wing on the side of the box is so the text can be a little bit bigger for the ingredients, things like that. And then, as you mentioned, we've got the braille on the packaging. That's just our brand logo, and it's there with equal hierarchy, which means the same size as our text logo, as a sign that we intend to be as inclusive as possible.
Yeah.
The actual information, though, is not in Braille. There's 2 reasons for that. One is that Braille takes up a lot of space and mascara tubes are really small. And two, most people with low vision don't actually read Braille. So the actual information on the mascara package can also be accessed by a special code called a NaviLens code.
Okay.
And that's a code on my box. It's a bit like a QR code. And
Mhm.
people with low vision have an app that scans that code, and it helps them to locate products on shelves and also access information about those products.
Okay.
And I thought it's obviously not going to change the world for people with low vision to have mascara being a little bit more accessible. But this is my opportunity to create packaging the way I'd love it to be for everything, and to
Yeah,
have conversations like this.
absolutely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, imagine one day, there will be a day, I hope so, where every product at the supermarket or the beauty store has these codes. So people
Mm.
with low vision could shop more independently, and
Yeah.
then it would really make a difference.
I mean, really exciting journey today, to date with Okkiyo. And, certainly from the time you've launched, a lot's happened and plenty happened before that as well. And I can just see so many opportunities for what might be ahead for you. But I want to ask you, what are you really looking forward to for the rest of this year and then beyond with this business?
Well, I'm working on quite a few new products, and I mentioned that I learned a lot from the mascara. So one of the things I learned is not to set timelines for anything. So I don't know when I'm launching them. I'll launch them when they're ready.
Yeah.
But I originally intended to launch with mascara and also cleansing balm to remove it.
Oh,
But
good.
the balm turned out to be quite difficult and complicated, and I just had to put it aside to get on with launching.
Hmm.
So I've picked that up again, and I'm super happy with the formula finally. It's just got a ton of testing to get through before launch.
Yep.
And also in 2025, I have eyeliner and eyeshadow coming out.
Fantastic.
And I'm in the early stages of some products to come after that as well. So
Wow.
I'd obviously be able to move faster if I had more time or more help. So eventually I'll develop a team as well.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, for now, it's just me with that little bit of external support. And yeah, it's pretty exciting to be able to keep moving forwards.
Yeah, brilliant. And I mean, these next three questions for you, they're probably some of it might feel a little premature, but I'm going to ask them anyway because I like to ask every guest these questions. What advice would you give to yourself and we'll have to say before you first started even developing the product?
Well, you're right. I mean, it's pretty early on. This will
Yeah,
probably change in another few years,
yeah.
but I definitely say to trust myself and be confident. So this isn't my industry, and I'm used to working in science where there's often a right answer to figure out. And um, this beauty and business is actually a much more creative field compared to what I normally do. And
Mm,
whilst I've learned a lot now, back at the beginning, I did need a lot of validation from other people to trust my ideas. And looking back, my ideas were good and I should have just gone with them.
mhm.
But it took me some time to develop that confidence. I did feel like, you know, I don't know enough in this industry, or, I don't know how this should be done. But actually, I did.
Yeah. Do you know, I
So I
actually feel like that's quite a common um, experience for a lot of women in business to, start out feeling like they aren't good enough or don't have the best ideas to, they have to check with other people a little bit more.
yeah.
But often our instincts are usually pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd just tell myself that I can do it.
Mm,
I keep mentioning it, but I really devour podcasts. I listen to so many, and one thing that I would often take away is if that founder can do it, I can do it. And I just find those stories really motivating. So they'd help me to keep going and just do the next thing, whatever that was. And
yeah.
sometimes only when it was appropriate, that done is better than perfect. So
Yes.
you can get really tied down in the details of trying to perfect something, whether it's, your website or some copy, or, at some point you just have to hit send and
Do.
move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Um, and, eventually, it's, it's obviously really hard creating a new product and bringing it to market. But I think
Mm,
one thing that actually helped was once I got past that point where we'd spent so much time and money on this brand that I actually had to get it to launch. My
yeah.
family had sacrificed a lot to fund the business, and I just couldn't give up. So
Yeah.
um, then I just kind of had to keep taking the next step. So
Yes.
a bit of
Yeah.
confidence would have helped.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you got there, so that's amazing. And hopefully, other listeners are going to take that lesson as well. So, two more questions for you today. And the first of those is, what has been one of the best decisions that you've made in your business so far?
I think setting up the business from the beginning as a big business, so to speak, I'm proud of the way that I allocated my budget. We've talked about that a little bit. I did nearly everything myself, but sought help in the areas that I really thought were beyond my expertise and were going to make a big difference. So that was basically PR and now marketing.
Yep.
And I know that not every brand owner has the privilege to be able to do that, but I got a loan and extended my mortgage and spread the cost over quite a few years. And I think that investing in great branding, my education, marketing, and PR, as well as the right tech stack, were good decisions.
Yep.
It's meant that I can start, launch, and keep going without having to go back and changing things. There's tons of areas that I'd like help with, but they're just seeming less important at the moment. So I'm proud that I allocated the budget in that way, and I think that set me up with the ability to become quite successful.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, particularly the branding, because you've done such a beautiful job with that. It looks like a premium product, and that plus all the PR and all the other things that you've done have added credibility. But I'm sure that that's contributed to your ability to take off as you have. um so I have one more question for you, and I'm really hoping my Wi-Fi stays good for us for this one. What do you love about being a business owner so far?
It's basically a thrill. It's high energy and fast paced. And as you know, there's high highs and low lows.
Yes.
I love learning new things. And luckily, I love doing really hard things as well. It's very satisfying.
Yes.
I've loved meeting all the new people in a whole different industry. And actually, something that's cropped up that surprised me is my actual favorite thing. I
Mm.
really love working with women. I mean, medicine's extremely male dominated, and that's the life that I've always known. For Okkiyo, it's nearly all been done by women, and it's mostly, but not exclusively, but mostly for women.
Mm.
From the scientists to the website and packaging design, marketing support, PR, I've just connected with so many smart, successful women who are so supportive and kind, and I wouldn't swap that for anything.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that too about my businesses, and my whole team are women, and it's been that kind of a journey for me during my entrepreneurial years as well. Yeah, it's pretty cool that we get to do this, and I guess design. Well, I hope things will be very different for you in a year's time, and beyond that as well. But feeling like you can design your future somewhat, design the life and the business and the work that you want. So let's
Yes,
give
thank
you
you.
let's give you a shout out. Where should our listeners go to find Okkiyo and go and check out your beautiful products?
Uh, Thank you. Well, the website is okkiyo.com. So it's OKKIYO. And on social media, mainly Instagram, I'm at Okkiyo Eyes.
Okkiyo Eyes. I love it. Fantastic. We will definitely link to those in our podcast show notes page as well. And I can highly recommend to our listeners to give it a go, because I've been wearing it all, I reckon, for a week now. And actually, I did a little test. I'm just going to throw this in at the end. I did a little test a couple of days ago where I went back to the previous mascara that I was wearing, and I had itchy eyes by the end of the day. So there you go. It does work.
Oh, really? It's interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm super happy that it's working well for you. It
Yeah.
certainly looks nice. I can see it on the
Thank
screen.
you. Well done. Congratulations on this beautiful brand, and may the future be amazing success for you.
Thank you so much.